Sometimes a build just misses the mark, and there are two ways that you can deal with it. You can work it into your story. There are examples of strange infrastructure all around you regardless of where you live. Things that wouldn't be built today if the project were proposed new. And those projects can lead to a community having a ton of character down the line. Or you can decide to call a mulligan, realize the error of your ways, and try something new. This is a game after all, and that's the beauty of it. In today's video, we're going to land somewhere in between. We'll redo this dangerous highway bridge and replace it with something more reasonable. Then we'll modify this rail line, but potentially in ways that you might not agree with at first blush. But I am hoping that as I explain what I'm doing, you'll at least understand my rationale. And since we're calling mulligans, let's work on a few of our new assets that came with the detailers patch. And if you're happy that we're calling a mulligan, hit the like button. And if you were one of the nearly 80% of people that thought the build was just fine, hit the like button for that too. Or leave an emoji that represents the part of the build that you're happiest to see improve for the sake of engagement. And without any further ado, let's jump right in. Hello and welcome back to Magnolia County. We're going to begin right here at our paper mill and make a couple of changes here based on your feedback. The first bit of feedback was that this highway bridge is very unsafe, and I tend to agree. So I had a vision in my head of what I was building, and it was really a vision that's kind of centered around cities like Milwaukee, where you have these elevated freeways going up and over industrial areas. But here's the thing, when that generally happens, you would have the highway bridge over parking lots or storage areas, not over the top of the factory itself. So I kind of lost the plot a bit there. So we are going to redo this. But as we do this, I'm going to actually change this quite considerably. So what I want to do is eliminate this whole highway all the way back to here. And I'm thinking that we could actually run a 4-lane, 2-way highway right here, angle over, and then link back up to our highway. And the reason why I eliminated this bi-directional segment is we've already got this 4-lane segment right here. It's already too much capacity. So I don't know that we need to build this to interstate standards. We'll just stick with this 4-lane bi-directional road. So let's begin with a bit of anarchy. We're going to boost this up, maybe 8.75 meters. Now this is going to be a bit of a trick. So I want this to straddle this road right here, but I don't want the pillars to be in the middle of it. And you can kind of see if I center on the road, the pillars will be on the side of the road. So that's what I'm looking for. And I figured that was going to happen. It broke the connection with this facility because now the facility believes that it is on this highway, which is really frustrating, but we'll work around it. Now, I'm going to use the continuous tool to bend this over. And now I just want to make sure that this remains relatively flat. And that's pretty good. We will come back to this in just a moment. What I want to figure out now is how to make this facility happy. So I think we'll try to use Move It for that. And would you believe that all I had to do to fix this was elevate the entire highway segment and then drop it back down? Well, this is what I was hoping for. And you can see that now the pillars are straddling both sides of the key wall, but they're not in the middle of it. And ignore this. There's nothing I can do to fix this right now. And you didn't have to see that. We will deal with parking in a little while. But now we need to make the connections between this bi-directional highway and our existing highway. And what I'm thinking is this is going to be the point where we split off. Actually, we've got to extend it because I don't want any. I want to have as minimal bridge segments as possible. And now I'm just going to upgrade these to 3-lane segments so that you're forced to merge as you enter the bridge. And then you can see it's given us a U-turn. I think I can get rid of that. Oh, that is absolutely perfect. I love that so much. And now this to me feels very, very safe, relatively safe relative to what we had before. So let's get this linked up over here. And the first thing that we're going to need to do is a bit of grading. And there we go. That is much nicer. One last little connection and we should be good to go. Oh, that is so much better. I'm a big fan of that. So this should be all reconnected and I think that is a ton safer. Now, the second thing I want to fix over here is parking. And this is something that I heard a lot in the comments, that I've overdone parking. And then at this particular facility, I didn't think about it at all. And bluntly, I didn't. So we are going to reconsider that. Now, this paper mill complex has 562 employees, and that number will continue to increase. That happens with some of these specialty buildings like this one. Now that said, it does have some parking built in, like the parking that shall not be named, as well as all of these other empty parking stalls. So reasonably, the game doesn't need it, but we're going to add it anyway because I think that it's rational. So I think that we'll add a bit of parking right in front of the factory so that you could get off this exit and then immediately park. And then we'll also add some in the rear that could serve the back of the facility. And then I'm also going to eliminate a couple of these factory buildings in favor of parking, which I'm guessing will be kind of a controversial decision, but I think it's something that we have to do because those assets just don't really come with any parking, and it's pretty bizarre without it. And there we go. Just a nice little parking lot. We've also got to add in a crossing. So I double clicked and I added a node right there, and oh wow, it's totally broken my parking lot. Just using Move It to bump that up seemed to fix everything though, and that is much better right here. Now, before we go over there and make another parking lot, we've also got our bar over here, and there's nowhere to park here either. And I'm going to extend the key wall out as well. And now I'm going to level the area next to this key wall to be the same height as the bar. And I have an idea that I'm not sure is going to work, but we're going to try it out anyway. So I'm going to use this tiny parking lot. I could add one right here, no problem, but I want another one right behind it. And though I can place that and I can use Move It to make it look very nice, it won't actually function like this. But to me, this kind of looks like what I'd expect to see in this kind of an area. So here's my idea, my probably bad idea. I'm going to take just the normal alleyway and drop it right there. Okay, I don't know that I love that, but let's see what this looks like in photo mode. It's okay. I don't know. Let me know how you guys feel about this in the comments. I really want to do a parking lot like this, but this may not have worked. So if you guys aren't a fan, I will change it. Now let's get some more parking while we're thinking about it. And I'm going to basically eliminate half the factories right here in favor of parking. And there we go. I think that this looks really good. Now, I had thought about adding additional parking for this factory, but the more I think about it, the less likely I think that would be. And when I think about it, when you have big industrial users, they either want extra parking or they want to minimize it. No, it's all really site dependent. Now, in this particular instance, they'd have to grade to build this parking that they might not use. So I could see them submitting a parking study, basically saying that though we have 568 employees, we're going to operate 3 shifts. So we actually need 1/3 of our 1/3 of that total number for our overall parking, plus a little bit of overhead just in case there are visitors. Now, if this were a very flat site and they planned on expanding in the future, I could definitely see them saying, oh yeah, we need 500 parking stalls, because if they grade that little bit of property and they end up paving it in the future, ripping it out for a building, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Now, an interesting thing is the parking stalls keep disappearing here. Try this one more time. Try to make sure that we don't lose these. And then I have gone through and removed all of the parking fees associated with this entire site. And that really does make me curious. Are we going to see some of these buildings start to get some parking utilization? Because if you look at a site like this, 38 employees, and this building comes with no parking. So you should actually need to have this parking lot here for this to function, but it's been just fine without it. So I'll be interested in keeping an eye on that. But with everything fixed over here at our paper mill, let's move on to our rail network fixes. Now, reasonably, I can't think of a more controversial project in a build than this rail bridge, and we are going to decommission it today. Now, I really appreciate all the feedback in the comments because it did make me reconsider this, and I do think that I lost the plot a bit. But here's the thing. I was planning this as if it were being built today in a brand new community, and what I really want is rail that's planned like a historic community. So I saw that people came down into one of 2 buckets. They either wanted this removed and buried, or they wanted it rerouted altogether. Now, in terms of rerouting, there are really 2 options. We could try to grab the cargo line from up here near the university. We have to cross our passenger facility, use some eminent domain on the university, and then send it down the coast. I really don't see that as plausible because of the number of bridges that would need to be reconstructed. Another option would be to try to take this spur and find a way to route this over here. Lots of terrain challenges, lots of eminent domain, probably not happening there either. And that brings us back to right here. Now, we had already preserved some right-of-way for the train already, so that's one of the reasons why I extended this down here. It was always part of the plan. And reasonably, I think that from a historical context, this is something that you could have seen. I've actually personally lived in 2 cities that have renamed themselves for executives in a rail company. And they did this to attract rail to their communities because they knew, the early founders of the communities knew that without rail, their city wouldn't grow. Rail was seen as a connection to the outside world, a way to make your community prosperous, and as a result, they did whatever it took to get the rail in the community, including building in less desirable places than maybe they would prefer the rail to be in. But it's not just small random towns in central and northern Wisconsin. Look at a place like Santa Cruz and look where the rail is there. 100 years ago, 150 years ago, rail just went where it made the most sense for rail, and communities would do whatever it took to get rail in their community. Now, the reason why I want to emulate this and not try to do something super modern is because having these rails in your community really makes them feel real. It severs connectivity and it opens up future possibilities. Imagine a future where this rail spur is decommissioned and turned into a bike path. That is a Rails to Trails project, and those happen all the time on rail lines that have been decommissioned. And they end up being incredibly direct because the right-of-way is incredibly direct. They end up really being some of the gems of a community. It's why Madison is a platinum bike-friendly city, because of Rails to Trails projects. That's why all the trails are diagonal and lead directly into the heart of the city. And speaking of my city, Madison, check out this rail line right here. This goes straight through some of the most desirable property in the entire city and cuts through a bunch of residential neighborhoods. So it's not as if cargo rail doesn't exist in residential neighborhoods, it absolutely does. And I know this firsthand because growing up, my townhome had a rail line right behind it. And every single night I would hear the trains pass, the cargo trains pass through my residential neighborhood. So all of this is a long way of saying we are not going to eliminate this. We are not going to bury this. The land in this community is too cheap. What we're going to do is drop this down to the ground, and we are going to have a bunch of at-grade crossings. And I know that some of you are going to absolutely hate that, but I do think that it is the right choice for this community. So what we're going to do is reconsider this Cherry Street extension right here. Everyone loves that. And what we're going to do instead is use even more eminent domain, which is probably not what you guys were expecting me to do. So I'm going to send double track behind this because I want cargo trains to be able to queue right here. And then we are going to neck this down to single track. But I'm not 100% sure where that's going to occur just yet. So I think for now, I'll send it out to about there. And then I'm going to run this to here right now. We're going to sever most of the connectivity on these streets. There might be 1 or 2 through streets, and that's about it. And now right here, we're going to do a whole bunch of deletion. Now, I think I'm also going to redo most of the zoning along here and reconsider most of what we've done in this area. I think that we've increased the zoning density a bit faster than I'm comfortable with. So we'll reconsider that. But for now, we've at least got this in a place that we can resume it. And what I'm going to do is grab our level terrain tool, and I want to find our top height here. We'll grab a really small brush, and I'm going to take that height, and we're going to start building this up. So I'm going to try to make sure that we have bridges over all of the numbered streets right here. And I'll try to keep this relatively flat. Now, there are 2 reasons for that. We actually start to lose elevation right here, and I think that this is a problem for us. So by building this up, we could add key walls behind these, and then what we're going to do is loop this back around at grade, call a bunch of mulligans on these buildings over here. Okay, so now I'm going to take my single track, and I'm going to try to keep this. I want basically all my snap twos off. I don't want anarchy on either unless I need it, and I want to run this all the way across here. Now, I'm not 100% sure what happens on this block. I think that we're going to be turning right here. We might just sever this road altogether. I'm going to try my best now to get bridges right here. And I have a feeling, yeah, I really, really despise the way that rail is handled in this game because it really shouldn't be doing that dipping. What I'm going to try to do is I'll try to use move it to drop this down. And that's not going to work. So let's try attempt number 2. Now, my next idea is that we will keep our elevation step a little bit higher. So I think I can go up 3.75 without getting the key wall. So we'll do that. And that'll basically berm this up. And if I get this just right, I'm hoping that I can make a bridge connection across. Look at that. That is perfect. Well, maybe not perfect, but it's pretty darn good. Okay, and that is pretty darn good. So the one thing, you can see that this is pretty low and we can see into the upside down. I think we can fix this, but at least we don't have a situation where I was kind of worried that we'd have trucks scraping the top of this. We can probably adjust some of these down a little bit, but in general, I think it looks pretty good. Now, what I'm hoping to do is just come back through and replace some of these with key walls and maybe fix some of that, although I think most of them are already in place. So I might just be using Move It to finesse some of these bridges. Okay, and now I want to make sure that for this next part, we don't have anarchy on. I am going to get rid of this connection right here, and then I'm going to do a bit of pre-grading. So we'll grab this height and then grade up to it. And now I'm going to basically drop this down to ground level and try to grab that. That contour line right there is our other rail line. I'll click here. And it's telling me that the curve right now is too tight if I make the connection. That makes me wonder, how far back do I have to go for it to like this? And it let me get away with this completely vanilla. So I'm going to take that and attempt to fix it. You can see that there's a lot of craziness happening here. That's mostly heights, but I think I can fix the rest of this. Okay, that was a lot, and we do have to improve this still. We've got a lot of alley connections through here. I think we're going to eliminate most of these, then we'll get rid of that big ridge right here. But I want to fix this area first. And there we go. You can see how these roads would have been severed in favor of this rail line, and that is exactly what I wanted. I'm going to also back up some of these roads so that they're not completely touching the tracks. And even these homes where they get too close, let's back them off as well. Okay, good enough right there. And now let's fix the grade on all of this. For this, we'll just use our soften terrain tool. And I'm hoping that I can use the slope terrain tool to slope all of these up nicely. And there we go. You know, this is not 100% perfect, but I think it's perfectly good for what we're trying to accomplish. I really hope that at some point stuff like the upside down goes away, but for now, this is going to do the trick for us. And you can see that for the most part, we've accomplished what we wanted to do. We have a bunch of crossings that are grade separated. We do have a couple at grade crossings right here. Now let's just make a couple of connections in and we should be good to go. And what I think we're going to do, again, this one will be a grade separated crossing. And then we'll use a key wall to drop that down. Now on the key wall note, a number of comments said I should be embracing the key walls of the trains. And I kind of agree. So I think that we are going to attempt to use our key walls a bit more. And if we're already doing a bunch of grading, let's just get this right here. And there we go. That is much better. We've still got to reestablish this connection though over here. And to do that, we've got to reroute this. So we'll take our main line And I'm going to send that in right up here. And then we will use our complex curve tool to create our connection into our train station. And there we go. That is where we will end our double tracking. So the whole reason for this double track right here is so that because this is all single track, we're going to need our cargo trains to queue right here. And I don't want them to back up our passenger rail. So that should do the trick for us. And here we go. We can see that we've got a passenger train coming right here. We've got a cargo train waiting. That's because they want to go over to the cargo terminal over here. But because it's a single track, they're going to wait right here and they're not blocking that passenger train, which was the whole goal of the double track right here. So in general, I think that we've moved in a great direction with the trains. I want to give a huge shout out to B. Swagelhausen because he definitely helped me come up with the concept for this and kind of recenter myself a little bit with the rail. And with our rail fixes in place, let's right size our service buildings. Now, I don't want to go super crazy here, but what I'm thinking is that I want to eliminate the elementary school, the police station, and the post office and put in some buildings that are a more appropriate size and at a high school. So what I'm thinking is this is the first one I want to get rid of. We'll get rid of the post office. It's way too big for a community this size. Same thing with our police station. What I see here is that we've only got 3 cars in use, 2 criminals arrested. We'll get rid of that. And I'm going to replace those with our newer, smaller service buildings. So a small police station right here. And on the corner, I'll put the post office so you could access it from either side of the road. And the nice thing is that opens up another spot here on Main Street for some buildings that maybe have a bit more synergy with this area. Now I want to get rid of this elementary school. And I'm going to tell you, this is going to be a multi-step process. I'm going to get rid of this today, but this is 1,500 students. And I know that we don't have the space to add the number of elementary schools that we would need right now. We need at least 4 of the small elementary schools because that's what we're going to be using. So I'm going to get rid of this, but I'm only going to replace it with maybe 2 elementary schools today. And we'll get the rest of the elementary schools in the next one. And just look at how much everyone loved that. That was wonderful. So let's add our small elementary school. And I think that we can actually add one right here off Hillside Street where we just eliminated the police station. And the weird thing about this asset, so it's already got a playground in the back and our only add-on or upgrade is the gymnasium. I have really mixed emotions about this asset. It's really big. And you can only place it on one side and have it look normal. And I have it on the wrong side. So I'm going to switch where our elementary school is, and then we'll add the upgrade. And now we can use move it to move this around. And then obviously we've got to clean up our surfaces. Now that we've got our surface tools in the vanilla game, we clearly have to use them in a modded game. You know, and speaking of mods, I guess I could have just used Better Bulldozer to get rid of that hedgerow, and that would have made this a little bit better, but I think that it's fine that we relocated things and made it fit like this. But we have to have more than just this one elementary school, and because the rail is such a significant barrier, I think we'll add another elementary school over here. Now, an interesting thing that I noticed is we've got a whole bunch of single-family homes fronting an alleyway, and I think that was a mistake. So I'm going to extend this road out right here, and then we'll upgrade that, and I'll add another elementary school right back here on the side of the hill. And once again, we'll add that upgrade. Now, I know that I could add a whole bunch of these extension wings and try to make up the difference. I really don't like the way that they look, so I think that we won't do that. And for this building, I think we might leave it without the surfaces behind it because we've got a forest back there, so it seems fine to leave it just like this. You know, and after giving this some thought, I think we're going to place one more elementary school today. And I think we're going to place it right here on Crossing, which I don't love. It's a collector, but as far as traffic, there's not a lot right here. I don't know that there's ever going to be because of the densities. So we'll place that right here. And there we go. I think that this is actually a really good spot for this school. And the more I think about it, it'd give all the folks living in this apartment easy access to that elementary school. And it's already filling up. So that worked out really well. Now, our final building is going to be our high school, and we're going to need to basically rethink, I think, probably a couple blocks right here. So I think we'll place the high school right here, and then I clearly want to have the football stadium. So this will be the small high school, And I'm going to snap this right to the side right here. And then I want to see how big the high school sports park is. Yeah, it'll snap right onto Elm Street, but we're going to have to call a bit of a mulligan on school and most of these homes. And now I'll modify this surface to extend this out once more. And then because this is a high school sports stadium and because this is a high school, I'm going to add parking over here. And of course, I'll delete that surface. What I want to do first, though, is we've really got to think about providing some shielding to the neighborhood from this facility. There would be mega complaints with this as is, mostly because of all the lights and the sounds on game day. So what I think we're going to do is modify this surface back here just a bit so that we can have an area for planting some trees. And I'm going to plant them in a fairly dense row right here. And then finally, we'll add our parking behind the high school. And I think we'll need to get rid of a bit of landscaping to accomplish this. And there we go. I think that looks pretty darn good. And I think that's looking a ton better. And with our service buildings right-sized, let's move on to a little bit of zoning and rezoning. Now this is our final major mulligan, and I basically want to look at all of these higher density buildings that we added and get rid of all of them. And I'm guessing that's going to be a little bit controversial, but I think I jumped the gun here. So every single mixed use building is going to be eliminated. Okay, that is every single tall building removed. Now what I want to do is a bit of grading to improve this. So we'll just slope this back. And now I think I'm going to start out with low density businesses and just go over every single empty lot with low density commercial. And now knowing that we have demand for basically everything, I will add some row homes right here and right here where this is presumably a rezoning. And then I'm going to add some more, kind of sprinkle them through here so we have a nice mixture of uses. And I'll sprinkle in some office as well. And I think that is going to lead to something that is a bit more reasonable in this area in terms of the scale of the buildings and the heights. And if we're really thinking a lot about scale today, I really want to continue to think about it. And we will have higher density buildings in the future, but right now the community is really in 1- and 2-story landia, if you will. Now, while all of these are springing back to life, I want to focus on 7th Street and Pleasant Street, which I want to say was Hamilton at one point, but we'll roll with what it is. And along here, I just want to have some beachfront housing. We'll give a bit of separation in between the rail. And then right here, we will have some row homes, considering that we're closer to transit. And then right here, where we've eliminated the commercial buildings, we'll add those back in. And one office. And while we're here, in the spirit of mulligans, a decorative roundabout. I like that a ton more. And now for Pleasant, before we do anything right here, as a part of this train station, we're going to say that a pedestrian bridge was added over here. Otherwise, imagine being a pedestrian over here and wanting to get to the train station. You have to walk all the way down here, and it's many, many extra blocks for no apparent reason. So what we're going to do is have a bridge across here. So I'll try to go as low as possible, which looks like 7.5 for a nice level bridge. And then we just need to loop this around. So we'll use our continuous tool for this. And there we go. Now we have a nice ramp that allows you to connect across the street. And now I feel like we can build this area up a little bit. And there we go. I think that is a nice improvement for this area. And I added a whole bunch of landscaping along the tracks to attempt to make this a little bit more palatable for these new residences. For these, I think that what we're going to do is something very similar, but I may just go with some oak trees. And there we go. And right here where we have some of these commercial buildings, I didn't worry about it too much. We have some empty spots, gaps without landscaping, and I think that's completely fine. In general, though, I think that this is a major improvement to this entire area. Now, all that said, there are two more things that I want to fix. First and foremost, you can see that there's a large queue of freight vehicles that is blocking our passenger rail, and that is not something that I want. So I've got two things I think could improve this. First and foremost, I want to extend our double track a bit further. And this is basically given our freight routes additional time to queue as they wait for the train that's coming from the paper mill to pass. And you can see that the passenger train is now in the station. The other thing I think that we should do is take a look at the number of trains that we have on these routes. So I want to say we have 2 routes here. We have 3 trains on Route 7. I'm going to take that down to the lowest I can get it 2. And then I'm guessing there's another train behind this. Oh, that's 7 as well. This one is 8. Okay. So we'll take this one down to 2 as well. Now, the significance of this is that we have 4 trains in total now because we've got one right here. That's Route 8, the other Route 8 train right here, and then the 2 Route 7s. So we'll only have 3 trains queuing at any given point in time. Is it frustrating for the train operator? I'm sure, but still, this is much cheaper, and I'm guessing that this would be a fine solution for a factory that reasonably doesn't have all that many trains going to it. And then our other fix is going to be over here. There were a number of suggestions to add key walls to the train tracks right here, and after giving it some thought, I think it's a great idea. And there we go. That's looking really, really good. A lot of people left this comment that we should make this modification, and I think it's a really good one. It really cleans up the shoreline, and it protects the train line from erosion, which I really like. And with all of those mulligans complete, there's only one more thing left to do. That's take inventory of what we've done with a brief city tour. And boy, oh boy, looking at that tour makes it incredibly evident how much we needed these changes. So I want to thank you all for the feedback that you left. Even if I didn't respond to your feedback directly, I'll tell you what, I looked at most of them and I internalized what was said and used that to make these improvements. And I know I'm not doing exactly what everyone wants me to do, but I hope that you at least understand why I've made the changes that I have. And again, I just want to thank you for your feedback. It was constructive. Some of it was very funny and made me laugh, and I just really appreciate that. And I especially appreciate that because I think you've probably been able to tell throughout the episode, I'm not exactly feeling great right now. I'm a little bit under the weather, and it's been fun for me to read through the comments to take my mind off of feeling kind of crummy. And on that note, I'm sorry about the way I sound. Hopefully I will sound better in the next episode. And with that, I think that we're gonna leave it here. And if you enjoyed this one, please consider hitting the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. And I want to thank you so much for your time today. There's a million things that you could have been doing, and you decided to hang out with me and play some City Skylines 2 and watch me redo a bunch of stuff, which, you know, you could have done other things. And I appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.